Hey ROS developers, Marco Arruda here, and this is the second video of the series Developing Web Interfaces for ROS. So in order to continue, let's open the ROS Development Studio as usual. If you don't have an account yet, remember you can create one just for free, and you're gonna have some hours available in ROSJS. So I'm gonna open my project. It's called ROS Web Development number 2. Let's open it, and the code that I'm gonna start from is the same as the one that we have finished in the first video, but I have some instructions in my notebook. Okay, so the goal of the video, of the second video, is to have something very similar of the first one, but now we are going to use some web frameworks like Bootstrap and Vue.js. If you don't know about them yet, you can check on the internet, and I'm gonna do a very quick explanation about them. The first one, Bootstrap, it's just something that's gonna help us to have some stylish in our page. Okay, so instead of have very simple elements in the page, we're gonna have an interface, much pleasant interface of the elements we're gonna create and so on. And the Vue.js, this is a JavaScript framework that is going to help us to handle events on the page, to manipulate elements, to show content on the page, and so on. So this is the, let's call the pack for web development we're going to use for this web series, okay? So we're going to use Vue.js and Bootstrap, everything from inside ROSJS. Let's go to the project list in the meantime. And if you don't remember, in the video number 1, let's check here in our README field, our README file. We have just configured our web page using a very simple web page server using Python 3, and we also did run the ROS server to make it available to the web page all the ROS data we have in our ROS environment. And finally, we created a very simple page and put this JavaScript code there in order to connect to ROS. So we are connecting the web page through ROS bridge. We are connected to the ROS environment. And finally, we have published to the topic command velocity to move the robot this kind of message, the twist message, something very known to ROS developers. Okay, so basically we're going to start from this because we're going to need those 3 elements again, the web page, ROS bridge server, and ROS environment. But this time we're going to do something different because we want to use some frameworks for web development. So let's open it. Remember, this project is going to be shared just below in the description of the video, so you don't have to find the code somewhere else. Just go to the video description and copy the project there. There's a link there. Okay, so summarizing, let's import some styles to our page, and let's be more effective with JavaScript. We're going to use Vue.js in order to do that. Okay, so let's achieve to have the same environment we have created in the previous video. So the first thing I'm going to do is to source my virtual environment and go to the web page folder and run my Python my Python 3 web server. It's like this, and in another web shell, put it to the right side, and here I'm gonna run the ROS bridge server, ROS bridge WebSocket.launch. Great, and let's open the IDE. And right here we have the folder web pages. As you can see, we have the index HTML from the first video, but I'm going to do some adjustments for this video in order to use Bootstrap. So I'm just going to copy the content from the Jupyter notebook. Okay, so we have first the index HTML. You can just drag your mouse over here, go back to the IDE, paste everything, And we're gonna have now this main.js file, which is already filled, but you can create it from the scratch. Okay? So main.js file, and this main.js file is going to contain this code here. So let's open it again. Save the file. Okay. And there it is. This is the content that we need to have in order to reproduce the environment. Again, we need to know our public IP, because as ROSJect is assigning to you a different cloud computer every time you open it, so you must have a different public IP than the previous time you have run ROSJect. And the number of the port our web page is available is 8000. So let's go to the IP and port number 8000. I'm going to close some tabs I'm not using anymore. Okay, so this is the page that you must have right now at this point. Okay, and I'm going to leave it open on the right side, the debug toolbar. So you can check the console, the source of the page, and you can check that there is a main.js file being loaded here. Okay. And these are the components that you must have at this point. I'm gonna reload my ID because right now my internet connection is slow, but let's just reload it. And we're gonna I'm gonna start explaining line by line what we're doing here and how we're gonna achieve the goal of this video. So let me copy again content of the main.js file, get the ID open, paste the content here. Okay, and okay, basically we have this page here. Let's reload it, and now we have some different elements. I'm showing if the web page is connected or not to ROSJect server, and in order to have this, I'm using this element here. Okay, and I have put also an input text, and this input text is showing us it's going to take the address that you want to connect it to. In this case, it's going to be the public IP. So in the page, this is the field you're going to use, and I have put also a connect button. So after filling the field here with the address, press connect, and you must be connected to a ROSJect server. Okay, and finally on the right side I put these log messages here, which is gonna help us to see what is happening. So instead of looking to the console, I want to have some messages just on the right column of my page. Okay, of course, as we are still developing the page, I'm still gonna keep the console open, but in the future we're just gonna use the log messages that we have here. Okay, so let's start doing this. First thing about Vue.js is that we have to declare this new Vue object, okay? And I have here in this data attribute some states of the page. So for example, are we connected? False. This is the initial state of the page. I have put also a ROS attribute here, which is going to contain the ROS object, the one responsible for the connection to ROSJect server, and also another attribute called WS address. This one is gonna keep the address of the WebSocket server. So let's start filling this object here. So in this case, I have my public IP, and you must fill yours with your public IP. Okay, so it must be like this, and the number of the port. If you don't remember, you can always check on the web shell. And you're gonna see here that it's running on the port number 9090. Okay, so 99, that's the number of the port. And then we have some methods here. For instance, I have created only the connect method. Okay, and inside the connect method, I've put some code that is very close to the code that we created in the first video. But now instead of creating just a spare variable ROS to contain the ROS lib ROS connection, now I'm using the ROS attribute from the data state of the page. Okay, so we have like this ROS equals to newlib ROS and so on. And here, instead of putting the address as a string and containing a static value, I'm taking the very same value that we have in this data attribute. Okay, so we have the WebSocket address being used here. Great. So right now, if you reload the page, you must not have the address here yet, but just before doing this, let's go to the index.html, and I'm going to show how this data is connected to the HTML page. So finally, how does it work using Vue.js? There's let's call it a magic attribute that we can use when we're working with Vue.js, and it's called vModel. Okay, this vModel attribute is used to bind the value of the Vue.js data attribute to your HTML page. Okay, so in this case, I want to bind the value of the WebSocket address to this input field here. So in order to do that, I just need to declare the attribute vModel and put the name of the state I want to use here. So in this case, this is WS_address, okay? And then if you reload the page, we have the address already fed here. So it means that if you change the value in the JavaScript, the same value is going to take place in the HTML page. And the reverse is also true, because if I change the value of the address here, JavaScript code is going to consider the new address that I put in my input field. Okay, let's check another useful methods and helper functions that Vue.js provides to us. So, for example, I'm using this message here to tell the user if the web page is connected or not to ROSJect server. Okay, so for instance, we have no WebSocket server connected here, so you can check. We are using the console tab, but we have also the network tab and WebSocket connections. Let's get back to the index.html file, and I want to connect whenever I press the connect button. Right now, this button is doing nothing if I click here, but we can assign an event handler to this button. And how do we do this? Again, this is something new because it's something provided by Vue.js. And this is how we can assign a handler to the click event. Okay, so you have to use like this @click, and you put the name of the method that you want to call whenever you click this button. So in this case, we have already defined a method called connect. So I'm just gonna double click here, copy and paste. And whenever I click this button connect, we're going to have this method connect called here. Okay, so let's reload the page once again and try to connect to ROSJect server. So I'm gonna press, let's get back to the console because we have some console logs being called here. Okay, we have one when the method is called, first moment, and some other messages when there is an event happening to ROSJect connection. So let's try it, connect. And we have connect to ROSJect server. This is the first message being called. And a second message being shown, and it's written connected. It means that we have reached this point here, so ROS is connected. Right now you can check the network tab in WebSockets, and you're gonna see that you have exactly the same IP here, and it means that we are connected to the ROSJect server. Okay, so far no messages were sent or received, but we are already connected. Okay, so this is the status. And now let's go to another step, because right now we have a connection established, but we still have this message here being shown not connected. So how can we change it? In order to do this, I'm going to use this connected attribute that I have created, and we have to change the status of the connected attribute whenever we are connected. So let's put it just right here. Whenever we are connected to the ROSJect server, let's change the status of connected to true. And if something goes wrong, it means that the connection is going to be closed. So we have to change connected to false. Okay. And finally, in order to show that if it's connected or not, I have to change also the HTML page. So right now we are just showing the text not connected. So I have to create another text here, which is connected. Okay, connected. If you just reload the page right now, you're gonna have both messages being shown. So this is the moment that we have to use some magic attributes from Vue.js again. And how can we do this? I want to switch between those two messages depending on the value of the attribute connected from my data state of the page. So there is a very nice way to do this, and it goes like that. So I want to check if connected is true, and in order to do this I can use this Vue instruction. It starts with v hyphen if. It means that it depends on something, it depends on a condition, and you can put any kind of condition here. You can use a boolean value, but in this case I'm going to use the attribute that we have in our data. Okay, so in this case I'm going to just copy the value here, connected, and paste. Okay, so if we are connected, this message must be shown. In the other hand, if we are not connected, you can just put it like that. You are putting the negative condition. But if you don't want to repeat yourself, you can use the v else instruction, and then you don't have to fill the attribute because it's already implicit that this condition is negative. Okay, so let's save the files and reload the page. I'm gonna try to connect again. Let's check the console, and we have a connection being established. Fortunately, the message was not being changed. That's because I didn't save my file. I'm gonna reload my IDE again because I'm having some internet connection problems here. So reloading the IDE. Let's wait a few seconds until it gets ready again. In the meantime, I'm going to close the notebook, paste new content, save the file. Okay, reload the page. I'm going to try to connect again. We are connected, and now I have a different message here, connected. Okay, so let's get back to the index.html file. And this is not something from Vue, now it's something from Bootstrap, and I'm gonna change the class of the text in text. Instead of danger, I'm gonna use success. It means that we have a green message being shown, so we are not connected, connect, and now we are connected, so we have a green message. Very nice. Let's put some more stylish to the page, some more features to the page using Vue.js. Now I want to have another button here to disconnect. Okay, so this button must be shown only if we are already connected. So it means that we're gonna use v if we are connected. We're gonna show the option to disconnect, or we must show the connect button. Okay. And I'm gonna put also some styles to them. In order to do this, I'm gonna put the classes here. This is a button, and this connection, let's put as a danger button, and the connection I'm gonna put as a success button. Okay. And here I'm gonna change the method to disconnect. And in order to have this method available, you have to create the method, of course, inside of the methods attributes of the main.js file. So you just need to define it like this, disconnect, and this is going to be a function. And inside this function, we must call the object ROS, and call the method close from ROSJect. Okay, so let's try to, and let's see what we have in the page. I'm going to reload it again. Now we have a green connect button here being shown. I'm going to connect to the page. Okay, I have an error here, close of null. Let's check what I have done wrong. Okay, I am calling the disconnect method. Let's change it. Reload the page again. Let's try to connect, and we are connected. And then if I try to disconnect, we are disconnected from the page. So as you can see, we have the logs here. Connect to ROS server, we are connected, and connection to WebSocket server was closed. Very nice. It seems to be working fine. Now let's try something else. Right now I want to, instead of putting the messages in the console, let's close the console. We're not going to have the console on the right side anymore. I'm going to show the messages here on my page, so on the right side of the page. In order to do this, I'm going to create a new element here. It's a div element, okay? And inside this div element, I'm going to put some paragraphs in order to show the logs. And something else, I need to put all the logs in an array of strings. How can we do this using Vue? I'm going to create an array right here, logs, and it's empty array, okay? And whenever we're creating a log message to the console, I'm going to just replace it by this logs dot unshift. This unshift proper method is like push, but instead of putting the message to the end of the array, I'm putting at the beginning of it. So right here, I'm just gonna copy the messages and add to the logs array. Okay, so these logs unshift connected. I'm gonna comment the console log. These logs unshift again. Error connecting to WebSocket server, and comment the last one. These logs unshift connection to WebSocket server, close it. Okay, so we have all the messages now being added to the logs array. And let's get back to the HTML page. And in order to show all the messages that we have, this is something very nice from Vue.js, is that you don't have to create HTML pages every time that dynamically from JavaScript. So instead of doing this, we just need to consider that we're gonna iterate over an array. So this is how we can do using Vue.js, using v-for, and I want to instantiate a log object for every element I have inside logs. So it's very important that this name must match to this one that we have just right here. So just copy and paste to make sure that you have the correct name. And inside of the element, we must show the content of the log, but you cannot just put it like that, otherwise you are going to have just log being shown there. Instead, you must put double curly braces here at the beginning and close them. Okay, so let's save the file and reload the page. Let's check if it's working. And as we are still developing the page, I'm gonna press F12 and have the console on the left side. Okay, so basically what we're doing here, just creating a new element div, and inside of this element we are iterating over the array and showing the messages. So let's get back to the page. I'm going to connect, and we have a new message here, connect to ROS server, and we are connected. Now if I disconnect, we must have a new message. There it is, connection to WebSocket server, close it. Let's change this typo here. Okay, and if I try to connect it again, new messages coming, and disconnect, and connect, and disconnect. Okay, so every time we have a new message, our logs array is being updated in JavaScript, and the HTML is being updated at the same time. So this is something amazing from Vue.js. Okay, well, that's the content for this video. That was the goal for this video. In the next video, we're going to create a joystick, web-based joystick to control the robot. And remember, this time we're going to use already Vue.js and Bootstrap, so we're going to have a nice layout, and our JavaScript code is going to be very efficient. We're going to code as less as possible because we're using this amazing framework called Vue.js. Okay, if you like this video or if you have some problems, remember you can always contact us to have our help, just to support you, or just leave a comment and let us know if you like this kind of video. Okay, see you.